Welcome to another episode of the Men of the House podcast, where we're over here exploring the unfiltered truths of fatherhood, self-care, mental health, and just navigating the chaos of everyday life. Hope you enjoy the conversation.
This is Amber McCrae with Connection Over Perfection. I'm also part of the Podcast Connection Network. Check out my show and other shows like the one you're about to listen to. The link is in the episode description.
It's one of those things that every once in a while you'll get somebody who says something profound and you realize that the whole time you weren't recording or you didn't press record. So I always press record in the beginning just in case.
All right, I'll practice being profound.
All right. So today on the Men of the House podcast, we have John Giordano, he works in the addiction space. And I'm actually going to let him tell you a little bit on his background and how he got into the addiction space. How are you doing today, John?
I'm alive and above ground and healthy, so I'm doing fantastic.
Then we're both doing fantastic.
All right.
So okay. how did you get into this this space?
So I do a lot of other spaces. So I'm also a chaplain for the North Miami Police Department, and I work for trauma. Police officers have been in shootings, and guys coming back from Iraq, Afghanistan, women have been molested and raped and all that kind of stuff. Also mental health and also psychedelic space and also genetic base. So I do a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about for your viewers during the show. How did I get into it? I'm a recovering addict. I'm coming up now on 40 years of recovery.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I've been treating addicts, alcoholics, and other behaviors that are addictive behaviors like eating disorders and sex addiction and gambling addiction and all those addictions that people don't really get into too much, and they don't realize that those sub-addictions, I call them sub-addictions, because what happens is when people quit their main drug of choice, they usually gravitate towards these other than gambling or sex, and then eventually when that doesn't give them enough energy, they go back to the drug of choice. So you have to address the whole enchilada, as I would say. All right. So really brief. How long is this podcast?
However long we need it to be.
Okay.
I have no limits.
Okay. I have to get off by 2:45. So.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Anyway. Okay. So being a recovering addict, my family it was a mafia family type of family. My uncle was a hitman. My father was a heroin dealer. My grandfather was a Shylock. Those are people who loan you money. And if you don't pay, you'll pay one way or the other. So I always said I would never grow up like them. My father went to jail when I was 8. I got molested when I was 8.5 by boys in the neighborhood. Had a big impact on me. And then I was 9. I got molested again by a babysitter. She was 14. So I had a lot of trauma in my life. I got left back in the 6th grade because I was a class clown. And the reason why I share this information with people is because no matter what kind of family you come from, no matter what kind of schooling you had, I quit school in the 9th grade, by the way. And if you have addiction or you don't have addiction, you can always be successful. And you can overcome it. I'm also a grand master in the martial arts, Black Belt Hall of Fame, national karate champion, all that kind of stuff. So my uncle, who was a hitman, threw my wedding at 20, and the caterer insulted him in front of the family. So the next morning he killed him. And we had to leave town real quick. Matter of fact, I wrote a book about my life story, how I turned $300 into $45 million. Opening up a treatment center, which I knew nothing about in the beginning. And I show people that, no matter what kind of family, like I said, and we had to leave town real early, my new bride and I, and it's a whole story. And if you really want to look at the story, go to the Amazon. It's called The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never, Ever Gave Up. So that's that. And make it real short, my family did an intervention on me because I was really getting out of hand. I did every drug known to man. I used to do collection work for the smugglers. I used to do a lot of stuff.
Well,
I used to sell
what
drugs.
actually led you into your addiction? I mean, did you just start off experimenting? What was your drug of
Yeah,
choice?
well,
And
actually, the first drug I ever did was in 1965. It was LSD. And my friend came over with this little bottle of clear liquid, and he says, "Hey, this is." I said, "What is that?" He said, "Well, that's LSD." I said, "Oh, let me see." And I heard that it expands your mind, so I drank the whole bottle.
oh wow.
He freaked out because it was 5 hits. That's enough for 5 people. I was on a journey for like 4 days, an incredible journey. And then I became, like, I guess you could call, addicted to psychedelics. I did mescaline, I did peyote, I did uh, every drug known to man. Anyway, MDMA, or it was MDA at the time. Um, so those are all the things I did. I smoked pot, opiates I didn't like. I like drinking, I didn't like either. I did speed, I did every drug. Anyway, so why did I do the drugs? Well, it was originally an experiment, and then originally it was just to get high, and then originally it turned into uh, not being able to stop getting high, and it was no longer high; it was a down. So it really wind up feeling bad. I became really really sick. I'll put it that way. And so my family did an intervention on me. So I told you what my family was
Hmm.
about. I'm wondering who's doing an intervention on them. They're selling drugs. They're doing all the shit. They want me to go to treatment. So my mother said she wouldn't talk to me, so I went to treatment. And I had a spiritual awakening in treatment. In the beginning, I didn't want to be there. I said I wouldn't even get high with you people. What am I doing here? You know. Anyway, after 2 or 3 weeks, I started realizing that the shame kicked in, the guilt kicked in, how I hurt my kids, how I hurt my family, how I was hurting myself. Um, and I wanted to go home during Christmas time. It was Christmas Eve. And I went into treatment on December 4th. And I said, I want to go home with my kids. I don't want them to see me in a hospital. They says, no, John, you can't go. Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I didn't just get angry. I got rageful. So I went back, punched the door in my room, threw things around, and then I started to feel this pain and this anger inside of me, and this hurt, severe hurt. And I said, you know, I was wondering what the heck am I going to do with this? And all of a sudden, my therapist came into my head, and he's saying to me, "How about, John? Do you ever pray on your knees?" I said, "Look, I'm a recovering Catholic. I got calluses on my knees." So So he says, "How about humility?" I said, "Well, give me a break with that already." I said, "You know what? I always tell the same story. My God, if I'm in the closet, do you mean he doesn't hear me? I mean, come on." But anyway, the pain was so great, and I said, let me get down on my knee. Let me pray to whatever this is, God, energy, aliens. I don't know. Okay, but energy. I need something to help me. And I went to get my knee down, and this may sound a little strange. I couldn't get my knee down, and I had to push it down. And I had to push my other knee down. And they said, look, whatever's out there, please, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just take this away from me. I can't handle it anymore. And it left like it never was there. Now, I don't know about you or anybody else. That never happened to me. And I tried to get it back. All the pain and all the anguish and everything didn't come back. So that what I call my spiritual awakening and treatment. And from then on in, I went on a journey. And I don't want to talk about all of that. I'd rather talk about how to help people.
Okay.
If you want to know the journey, go get the book.
All right. Well, so that's kind of whenever where what at what point was it in that treatment program or was it after that you said, "Hey, um I want to help people?" Because the original question was kind of how did you get into this space? So, at what point in your journey did you decide I want to help people and I think I have what it takes?
Well, I always wanted to help people with karate. Okay. I taught in Liberty City in Overtown. That's in the African American community. I'm an inner city kid, so I felt at home. And I always helped kids get off of drugs and go on the right path, even though I was on drugs myself. But it wasn't on the point where it was apparent to anybody. So always these beginnings are not that noticeable
Right.
until you continue doing it, and then it becomes a whole other ballgame. So I always helped a lot of people. And when I got into the addiction arena and I saw how people were getting better, and I really started enjoying it, and learning about it. And I did everything they told me to do, even though I didn't believe in it and I didn't want to do it. Go to 90 meetings in 90 days. I went to meetings every day, regardless. It was 90, 200 meetings. I didn't care. Get a therapist. I got a therapist. Go to aftercare group. As a matter of fact, they had to throw me out of the aftercare group. I was there for a year and a half, and it's only supposed to be a year. So I just kept going, and I used to say, well, when is it going to get better? And they said, John, did you use today? I said, no, John, it already got better. So, and then with God, I would struggle with God, the God thing. And I had an old timer come up to me at a meeting. He goes, I hear you struggling with that. He says, how about G-O-D? I said, look, man, I know how to spell. He said, no, 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 no. He says, good orderly direction, G-O-D. I said, I can do that. So that was my higher power for a couple of years. And I always hear people say, well, AA didn't work for me. Treatment didn't work for me. And I have one sentence for them. No, you didn't work for it. It's like working out doesn't help me. No, you didn't work out right.
Right.
You
Or you
know what
didn't
I
do
mean?
the support work, like you didn't do the
Right.
diet.
And
Because
listen, man, you can't go to a gym for a month and say, now I'm going to be in shape for the rest of my life. No, it doesn't work that way.
no, takes a lot of
Uh,
work, a lot of time.
right. Well, it's after a while, it's no longer work. It's part of your life. Because if it's work, eventually you're going to want to leave, get a better
Ooh,
job.
I like that.
All right.
Um,
So uh, to me, it's a lifestyle. And, and here's a guy that didn't want to believe in God anymore, became a chaplain and a pastor. Here's a guy that didn't quit school in the ninth grade, got my GED and got all these degrees. Here's a guy that was always insecure around people that had degrees or doctors or lawyers. And now I lecture all over the world to doctors and scientists and all this other stuff. Here's a guy that couldn't spell very well. By the way, they got spell checks. I like that. And grammar check. And here I am. I wrote 3 books and I co-authored another book with a bunch of scientists.
So I got a question. I wanted to talk a little bit about genetics and how it plays into addiction. Did anybody else in your family have any issues with addiction prior to you?
In my family,
Yeah.
they had a yeah, they had problems with everything, not just addiction. So that's a loaded question. My father was a heroin dealer, my uncle was a hitman, and my grandfather was a Shylock, and the rest of the family did all kinds of nefarious things. And most of them did drugs. So,
Yeah. So it's
yeah.
kind of a hit. It kind of, I want to say it probably, especially in those time frames, it kind of almost like rock and roll. It kind of comes along with the culture,
Well,
you know?
when you have to understand genetics, we want to talk about, I work with Dr. Ken Blum, as I told you earlier.
Mm-hmm.
He's a geneticist who found the DRD2-ILE1 variant gene. That's the main addiction gene. There's other genes that are involved, but that's the main gene. Okay, but now just because you have that gene doesn't mean you're going to become an addict or an alcoholic. All right, because there's such a thing called epigenetics. Now, epigenetics means the social environment can change the gene expression. So you don't have a sentence of being an addict because you have the gene. But now there's a but is you have to live a life of wellness. Okay, and what does that mean? Well, most people don't realize, and this is where I like to segue into how to change and help people with addiction and mental health, because talk therapy is really good. Trauma work is excellent. Okay, working with the inner child is wonderful. But talk therapy deals with the software of the brain, what I call.
Hmm.
What other techniques do is they deal with the hard drive of the brain, which is your subconscious, which is the driver for all your behaviors. So EMDR, or I redeveloped that, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, is an internationally recognized modality that helps with trauma. It's where you move your hands in front of people's eyes and different cadences, and it helps with all that. And people can look it up, EMDR. I redeveloped it because I have a master's in NLP, neuro-linguistic program. I'm also a hypnotherapist, and I'm also holotropic breathing. I also do karate breathing. And all of that I combine with the EMDR, and I get rid of trauma within 20 minutes to a half hour.
Oh, wow.
And I mean serious trauma. But I always tell people, don't believe a word I tell you, man, because nobody believes you anyway. I said, sit down in my chair, and if it doesn't work, you can laugh at me, but I'm doing this for over 20 years. Nobody laughed yet. So have fun.
So have you found that really kind of the key to success has been studying all these different modalities and kind of combining them together versus, I mean, at different points in time, I'm sure in your life and career, because you have so much experience that, one thing is the newest thing, the latest thing since sliced bread, and, you know, you kind of go with that. But as you've gone on, you just told me about three or four things that you're kind of combining, and that's kind of the key to, as you would ingredients make a great dish, how you're helping with getting help people get rid of trauma.
Well, you see, what people don't understand is your gut, which I've been working with for 20 years, is they call it now the second brain. Why do they do that? Because there's more neurons in your gut than in your brain, number one. Number two, most of your dopamine, 80, 90% of dopamine and serotonin, those are the feel-good drugs that we manufacture naturally, okay, is manufactured in your gut, goes up the vagus nerve and deposits it into your brain. So if you don't take care of your gut, you're not taking care of your brain. They're finding out now that autoimmune diseases are coming from the bacteria in the gut. So there's a lot of different things in the body that we're not looking at. And this is what I lecture about. We're always looking at depression and anxiety because of psychological situations, and that may be part of it. But chemical imbalances may be another part. But there's a couple other pieces that we're not looking at. And I'll give you an example. And it's interesting. When I lecture to doctors, nobody argues with me. It's real simple. I always say to them, do drugs and alcohol, can they damage the brain? And they all go, absolutely. What are you doing for it? Talking to it? That doesn't work very well. Throwing pills at it? That doesn't work either. Okay. How about hyperbaric medicine? Oxygen under pressure. Turns into a medicine and help heals the brain. That's a piece. Okay. There's a lot of science going on with that, and more science needs to be done. It works with TBI cases, traumatic brain injury cases.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely works with wound healing. That's why it's in hospitals. And if it can heal with a wound on the outside of your body, it definitely can heal a wound on the inside. So then you got medical conditions are co-contributing factors to addiction and mental health and depression and anxiety. So what are those? Well, if you have a low thyroid, you can have depression and anxiety. Nobody argues with that. If you have leaky gut or H. pylori infection, you're going to have, and by the way, everybody go look it up. Okay, don't believe me. You're going to have depression and anxiety. We found 85% of our patients had low testosterone. And if you have low testosterone, you're going to have depression and anxiety, or even high testosterone in certain individuals. Also, you can have hypoglycemia, especially with addicts. They can have depression and anxiety. Closed-head injuries can cause depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and behavioral problems. So as you can see, there is a multitude of other precursors for addiction and mental health issues, which we are not looking at. Now, at my new treatment center that I'm partners with now, JC's Recovery Center in Hollywood, Florida, we have unfortunately, insurance companies don't cover a lot of the things I want to talk about right now. We also have clients come in with insurance, which we do take. But our executive program deals with, we do micronutrient testing to see where you are deficient in your body. because if you're deficient, it causes your body to go out of homeostasis. We do gut testing to see what's going on with your microbiome or your or the flora in your gut to get it back into balance. We do heavy metal testing. That's also very important because heavy metals can cause disruption in neurotransmission that mimics bipolar disorder and attention deficit disorder. And then we chelate those heavy metals out of the body. We take them to a cold plunge, which is good for inflammation, but also good for discipline, how to focus their mind and strengthen their resolve. We take them to the gym, and we have a coach that's with them throughout this whole process. They help them to start exercising and get the body back in shape. Okay. Then we take them to yoga. We take them to holotropic breathing. They have infrared sauna. We take them to. We take them to red light therapy to help with inflammation. We do a lot of things. Then we have a faith-based track. Well, not a track. The whole program is based on faith, non-denominational. It doesn't matter if you're Jewish, if you're Christian, or whatever you are. Okay, it's because spirituality is the foundation for any kind of recovery, I believe. We do individual, group therapy, family therapy, and trauma work. We do IVs, nutrient IVs with them. So as you can see, we teach them also, we give them organic foods, and we teach them 1 day a week how to cook organically.
Oh, wow.
So as you can see, it's a very comprehensive program.
How long is the program?
It's 30 days to begin with. And then if you want, you can come to aftercare for as long as you want to come with no charge. You can come 2 days a week. Okay. So we want to really help people. It's not that expensive, but it is expensive.
Right.
We also
all things considered, and it's an investment in your future.
Well, people they invest in their cars, they invest in their sneakers, and they invest in their homes. But if you're not healthy, that stuff is not going to be around. You ever go to a funeral and you look in the hole where the casket goes? You ever see a car in there or jewelry? Or I never saw it either. Okay, because if you did, probably people would try to jump in.
Yeah,
but no. You come out naked and you leave naked. Okay, so stop worrying about the nonsense and start taking care of. See, I look at it this way. I just did a lecture at Mount Sinai Hospital on spirituality. It's on Facebook if you guys want to look at it. And what I tell people is real simple. God, whatever God is to you, okay, gave you the gift of life. It's what you do with that life is your gift back to the Creator, whoever that is for you. So how well are you taking care of you? Just because you quit drugs and alcohol or sex addiction or shopping addiction or food addiction or whatever, okay, and you don't take care of your body physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, you just change seats on the Titanic. Real simple stuff. All right, so you quit drugs and alcohol. What about your life? How does that show up?
wow.
So,
Yeah, it's I think I heard on a podcast I was listening to on a drive back that it was like either take care of your wellness, or you'll make time for your wellness, or you'll be making time for your illness.
well, there's a saying, you ever heard of the two wolves that's inside of us? I'll give you a little story. It's a Native American story. They had a bunch of the kids around the shaman, and the shaman was talking about the two wolves inside each one of us. One is the negative one that does all the stuff that, that's not good for us. And the other one is the positive one that's all the positive stuff for us. So one of the kids raised his hand. He says, which one is the strongest? He says, the one you feed.
Very true.
So which one are you feeding today, guys?
hopefully the one that gets you further down the road, closest to the best version of yourself.
That's right. That's all we can do. Nobody's perfect. We're not going to do it perfect. Give it up. Like I'm going to be 78 in August. I'm in better shape than most guys that are 38. because I don't take medications. Okay. I take care of myself. Now, that doesn't mean that down the road I won't have to take medications or this and that. But what it does mean, I'm doing the best I can to get the best version of me. Because if I don't lead by example, I'm full of shit. I'm plain English.
Yeah,
Talk is cheap.
always.
Hey, after you finish listening to this amazing podcast, be sure to give it a 5-star rating. Then go check out the other podcasts in the Podcast Connection Network, including my own, Magic and Metamorphosis. Check us all out. The link will be in the episode's description.
So I got kind of a two-parter, and it's it kind of goes back to one of the points we touched on a minute ago with kind of the comprehensive treatment program that you guys run. And so, I was kind of curious how COVID, quarantine, and isolation impacted some of the addictions and relapses and whatnot. And also, kind of going back to that, with the isolation and all the problems that kind of, I guess, caused with mental health, with your program or any other programs that you've seen, was it around after COVID that there was a real focus or, direction to start including different things with treatment in terms of whether
Well,
it's community or
I've
whatnot?
always done those things. That's how the treatment center that I started with $300, not this one,
Hmm.
that I sold for 45 million in 2012. We were broke as a joke. Everybody laughed at us. We had no money. We hardly could make payroll. And the only person that had to pay was me because I was the only person that worked there. And eventually we winded up with 147 employees in 7 buildings.
Oh,
How
wow.
that happened, I have no idea. God blessed us beyond what I could tell you. Took us about 18 years to build that. And what we were doing was things differently. We had scholarships for people that didn't have money. If they were willing to do the work, we had a certain percentage that we could treat. Um, I think what's going on with COVID, what happened to COVID? It disappeared. Where'd it go? Okay. So to me, that was government nonsense.
Right.
Okay. Oh, all these people are dying. All these people are this and all these people. Yes, because we're treating it all wrong. Most people aren't healthy, number one. And then they were pushing this vaccine. So I don't even want to get into that with the people with the vaccines, but I know people that died after they
Yeah.
took the vaccine. Okay.
But the isolation factor didn't help at all either.
What happened is that the government, okay, society drove people into isolation, and isolation for addicts is the worst thing in the world. That's like walking down a bad street in your head. Okay. So, yeah, it impacted everything. It impacted people financially, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Of course it did. Because you know why? Governments, in my opinion, work on fear with people. It was a fear-based model. People get scared and they succumb to whatever anybody says. But look what happened now. Where'd it go? What, you mean it vanished?
It's true.
It's like nonsense. And then I'll never forget, I got an operation. I went to the hospital, I had to get operated on. And they said, "Did you get the vaccine?" I said, "Absolutely not." They said, "Well, you can't get operated. You got to show up, either take the vaccine or you can't, you got to go back and get a test and show us that you're negative." I said, "Well, let me ask you a question." I says, "If I had the vaccine, you would operate on me right now." They said, "Yes." I says, "Guys, you do know people that have the vaccine still can transmit COVID. They still can get it." And the nurse pulled me aside. She says, "Look, it's not us, it's the administration. You're 100% correct. It's ridiculous. But they have no choice." So, it's this like addiction and mental health. All right. Everybody, the insurance companies are destroying people. Okay. And how is that so? Okay. Look, when you have a model where one group works on not paying you and the other group works on getting paid, that's not a good model. Okay. because when one is in control of your money and they're the ones that don't want to pay you, it's not rocket science to figure out what they're doing. They're paying less and less for treatment. They're not allowing us to do testing that is necessary. Oh, there's not enough research. Well, how much research is not enough? Give me a break.
There was less research probably on the COVID vaccine than there was probably on some of these treatment modalities.
Right. If you have a 5 to 8 to 10% recovery rate on the way you're doing addiction and mental health treatment, don't you think maybe you need to look at another way of doing this? It's absurd. This may sound horrible to people, but I think insurance companies, why would they do that, number one? Okay. My only thing I can think of is that they want addicts to die so they don't have to worry about paying for anything anymore, because it just doesn't make sense. I'm not saying that's what they want to do, but what's
I
the
know.
other reason?
I was a healthcare administrator, and after being laid off 9 months into the pandemic, like I applied for many jobs, I turned some down, but I just don't see myself going back into the broken system. I don't feel like that's where my skills, my experience, and everything is
So if you got a
best
heart,
expressed.
if you got a heart and you really care about people, it's very nauseating. Okay, because they refuse to pay for things. They hardly. You know what they're doing now, and I'm saying this because, and look it up, guys. You ever heard of there's an insurance? It's like an Obama insurance, okay, that they're giving out now, and they're getting rid of the homeless in cities and states by giving this Ambetter policy, okay, for free. Here, you got this policy. It's for you, free. The government's giving it to you. Then they put you on a bus and take you out of the city and the state, and they send you to other places for treatment. But there's only one problem: these people have no money for food, they have no money for copays, they have no money for housing. So who's going to get stuck with it? The treatment centers. It would be okay if they paid for all this stuff, but they don't. So it's just another slimy way of getting rid of the homeless, the poor people that, they have, a lot of them have mental health issues. A lot of them are vets. It's disgusting what's going on. And I talk about it in some podcast, and I don't know, today I just, I'm looking at what's going on. I just had enough. I mean, this is like disgusting. We're in the best country in the world, and look what we're doing.
Well, there's that whole argument of, when I was getting my master's in healthcare administration, and there's all these satisfaction surveys, and there's this whole thing that if customer service or patient satisfaction is important because satisfied patients are likely to be more compliant, and more compliance leads to less spending within the healthcare system because ultimately people are getting healthier. But, realistically, they're still, I don't know, healthier or not. It's still so difficult and unaffordable almost, because even with insurance, you still have all the copays, you still have all the deductibles, administration, whoever, they all set these rules that you need to come back every 3 months for testing to make sure these drugs don't do this and do that. But it almost seems more like it keeps you on coming back, because I noticed.
You're talking about Suboxone then, I'm sure. Right?
Every drug, though, not just in addiction.
Listen,
I mean,
we're not fixing anything. We're walking cash registers for them. Okay, Suboxone and buprenorphine and methadone, they're opioids, so they became the new drug dealer in town. Okay, so now do some people need that? I would say a very small number of people who refuse to get well. Yes, otherwise they die. All right, I don't disagree with that. But there are alternative treatments that would help. And they go, well, which ones are they? There's not enough science. Well, you know what? Bottom line, it's $1 trillion business, and you don't want to know which ones because the pharmaceutical companies and you, I believe, are hooked up together.
Right.
Okay. Well, it might be a conspiracy theory, but everybody I talk to says, yeah, I believe that too. You know, because why do you use, like, look at your SSRIs? You
Right.
know, many of our vets have died, okay, that committed suicide. They go, oh, well, and they don't even want to tell the vets what is the downside of taking these things. I don't know if you know, there's a bill in Washington right now who my friend put through to tell the vets what the downside of taking these drugs. And you know what they said, the pushback? Oh, if you tell them, then they won't take them.
Of
What?
course. No, I took them for a little bit and got off of them because I was like, for me, I said, my problem was I didn't feel anything. And I was like, that's not good either. I mean, it's one
No,
thing.
you're a zombie. You're walking around like a zombie. And most
Yeah.
addicts take other drugs anyway. So, it's like a cartoon. Okay. So there's a detox substance called ibogaine. I work with Dr. Deborah Mash. She's a pioneer in ibogaine research. She's a neuromolecular scientist from the University of Miami School of Medicine. She retired from there just recently. She used to be head of the Brain Bank and the Alzheimer's Foundation. And I worked with her since 1996. And ibogaine is a bush from West Africa. It was utilized by the Weedy tribe, and what they used it for was a rite of passage. But there was this gentleman named Howard Lutzoff who wanted to get high. There's all a big history about ibogaine, but that's just generally, he really brought it to the public. And a very heavy duty heroin addict. He wanted to get high and he took ibogaine. He woke up the next morning, he was detoxed with no cravings. So he said, wow, this is pretty wild. So he opened up a place in Panama, him and his wife. They invited Dr. Mash. They found out about her. She went and she observed what was going on. And then she says, oh my God, what is this? And she wound up being with them. But, just because you quit drugs and alcohol doesn't mean the behaviors go away right away. So she decided not to be there anymore and opened up in St. Kitts. That's where her and I met, in Miami, and wound up working with her. And I did integration therapy in 1996, and now they're talking about it now. I laugh. They go, oh my God, you're like a pioneer. I said, well, I'm just old. So ibogaine is incredible, but they don't want ibogaine here in the United States. So why? Oh, it's a Schedule 1 drug. So let's look at what a Schedule 1 represents. First of all, it has to have no medical use whatsoever, number one, and it's highly addictive. Well, I promise you, you do not want to do ibogaine on a daily basis. Matter of fact, you don't even want to do it once, okay? Because when you get in there and you're out there for 8 to 10 to 12 hours, okay, in this journey, all right, uh, you're in hell. You're visiting all your traumas. You're having what they call a cathartic experience. It's not something you get high with, okay? It's something that you learn from. And you don't have to keep doing it to learn. I promise you. You don't want to keep learning this, okay? Then you got to do the work. Then you got to go to treatment. So you can work on all these behaviors and all the stuff that you learned. So this is where we're at, and but what's going on is now you got psilocybin,
Mhm.
okay, mushrooms. You got MDMA coming out.
Ketamine.
Uh, you have a lot of psychotropic drugs that are falling into the market because we all know SSRIs really don't work very well for everyone. It's a guessing game. Yes, it's an educated guess, but it's a guessing game. Take 2 of these, take 3 of those. Oh, raise it, lower it. Oh, add this. You're having bad adverse reaction. Take this. Oh no, take that. By the
Not
time
only
that
that, it's you got to do it your whole life. If you get on that stuff, it's like either if it gives you the desired effect that you're looking for, that's then you're going to keep taking it and you're probably not going to do any work. But whenever I noticed that I just didn't have any feelings and I didn't like it. And so I was like, okay, I have to stop taking this. And then, of course, I felt like I was crying all the time, but I said, at least I'm feeling. But the real issues need to be worked through, journal through, talked through.
That's right.
and
They
all
need to
that
do the
kind of
work.
stuff. Yeah, you got to
Problem
the
is,
root cause. If you don't
problem
address the
is
root cause,
our
then
society today, they don't want to work. They want a magic pill that's going to take them out of their distress. Okay. Sorry, guys, there's no magic pill. And if you don't do the work, you're not going to get the job done. And even in our industries where people they don't even want to work, and if those who want to work, they want to get paid high salaries, and then they don't work. So it's almost comical what's going on in our country. We got to start tightening up everything. We're really uh, gone wild. This is not the country I grew up in, so I don't even know what's going on here.
now, were you
I mean,
guys allowed to stay open during
I
COVID and
wasn't, I
quarantine?
wasn't, I wasn't, I didn't have a treatment center. When I sold in 2012,
Hmm.
all I did is I was lecturing and writing books
Okay.
and doing podcasts. So I didn't actually have a treatment center, but
Now,
it
do you know,
affected
did you
all the
keep,
treatment centers.
yeah, did they get to stay open, or was that kind of a point in
Yeah,
time where,
just barely,
okay.
just barely,
Because I wonder
you
how
know,
many addicts kind of either missed out on treatment or went to the wayside, or how many
a lot,
possible lives
a
were
lot.
lost during
Well,
that
let's look at
time.
it this way. Over 100,000 people, addicts die every year. And I think it's even higher than that. It's probably more like 125, 150. 150,000 people. And they keep on paying less for treatment. They keep on shortening the days for treatment, and they keep on giving people pills to walk around like a zombie. What's wrong with this picture? Okay. So that's why I went back into the field and opened up this treatment center. And even the ones that don't have any money, we give nutrient IVs for free. We do as best we can to get all the groups and all this stuff. I just can't afford to give them all the other modalities that can really, really help. But we teach them about it, and hopefully they do some of them. Because we deal with the homeless people, people that don't have anything, people that have mental health issues. It's very sad to see these young people, what they're going through. And, most people don't know this, but if you go to treatment and they don't put you on medication or you're not on medication, then you're not sick enough to be in treatment.
Mm.
Now, how crazy is that?
The whole goal is to uh, be
Get
as
them out and give them
self-sustainable as
medication.
possible.
That's the goal. Get them out quick, give them medication, okay, and that's it. And if they die, oh well.
Now, do you see, I know there's always hope because, I feel,
Absolutely, there's hope.
now, do you see anything with whether it be insurance, the government, or anything like that coming down the pike that's possibly beneficial in that maybe they're going to cover more for treatment, they're going to reevaluate criteria
No,
and payment?
because they're all under the ether.
Because it's the
They're all
insurance
under the
companies
ether.
and not necessarily
No,
whoever's making
no.
healthcare law.
People are going out of country to get health care, believe it or not. And believe it or not, out of the country is better health care than here sometimes. Because a lot of the people out of the country studied here, and now they can really treat people over there. Okay, you can go to Colombia, you can go to Costa Rica, you can go to Mexico. There's a lot of things. The medications that cost $100 here cost $10 over there. Same medication. You know that. Everybody knows that.
Right.
You know. So you get an operation over here, costs you 40,000. Over there, costs you 5. Why is that?
It's the
You know,
system. The
the
system's broken.
system is totally broken, just like our. But there's always hope because there's people like you, like me, like other people are out there talking it up, and everything has a cycle. I never give up on anybody or anything, and all I know is I'm going to do the best I can with what I can do with, and the people I can help, and hopefully it catches on.
So what's showing the most promise towards treatment in the future? I know you said you just went to a psychedelic, whether it was a convention or a learning experience.
Right. Well, psychedelics is the future. That's the future. And then also people learning about wellness is the future. So it's knowledge. People are learning that our food supply is based on making money, not on health.
Right.
All these processed foods, all this sugar stuff, all this stuff, they just keep changing the names.
Yeah.
So it hides.
Everything's
Okay.
based on making money or selling. And I think once you realize that, it's kind of, I think everything didn't start off that way. People got into businesses to help people, but then at some point it changes to profit or it grows, and then there's too many hands and everybody wants a cut. And then all of a
Well, it's
sudden,
okay to make profit. It's okay to make money. It's okay to do all that, but
but
give
not at the
quality
harm of
food.
others. Yeah.
No. And the bottom line is, it's like, I believe things happen for a reason. And everything that's going on in our country today is exactly what's supposed to be happening. I believe. And I mean, if you look at who do you want to vote for, which poison do you want? I'm a
Right.
Republican. Oh, I'm a Democrat. No, you're an idiot, because you know what? They're all the same. They already want their own self, what they
Yeah.
can gather up. That's all. Their own agendas, their own thing, has nothing to do with us. So, but if you believe that's okay. I'm not against anybody. I'm not, I'm just saying what I see.
Right.
So
Now, do you think is there anything, I know we've come a long way in terms of, whether they've started allowing some psychedelic both studies and or usage in small areas of the US. Do you foresee that the government, the law will change anything to allow more access to psychedelics in the
yeah,
future?
you know when it's going to change? When they can figure out how to make money from
Mm.
it. Let's talk reality.
That's what
It's
I was
about
thinking
money.
about.
Yeah, it's about money. We became an addictive society, is what we did. We're addicted to money, power, and control. And that's what the bottom line is. But there's a lot of us out there that, are working against all that. And we shall prevail. I always have hope. Okay. And the bottom line is, this is not about negative stuff. What we're talking about is about what's really going on. And then we have to see how we can do something about it as a group. Let's start getting people in Congress and places that really care about people, not just about themselves. That's kind of hard to find, but there are some people out there, I believe.
Yeah, they're
But
out there.
we got to wrap up because I got to go to another appointment.
Sounds good. Well, I
But
appreciate your time and your knowledge, and I definitely look forward to see what's coming on in the future.
well, if they want, they can go to my website, John, the letter J, Giordano.com, Giordano.com. And they see all the projects. They'll see some of the research papers I have, and the television shows, and the podcast, and the lectures, all the stuff.
Awesome.
Okay. And go. And if you want, my phone number's on there. Call me if you need help. Whatever you want to do, guys. I'm here for you.
Well, thank you for your time, and I love what you're doing, and thank you for all you do.
And thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. Well, you have a good appointment.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, you've made it this far, which means you're probably a super fan of the show. That's amazing, and I really appreciate your support. To keep up with all the latest updates, make sure you're following the show on social media. You can find all the links in the bio. And if you've been enjoying the content, I'd be so grateful if you could take a minute and leave a review. It really helps us reach more people who might love the show as much as you do. Also, don't forget to tell one friend about the show as well. Word of mouth is the best way to help us grow. And if you're feeling extra generous, check out the link tree in the bio where you can find a link to donate. Every little bit helps me keep creating the content you love. Thanks for being an awesome superfan. I couldn't do it without you.
Hey, go.
Asteroid of fear.